Hi there, I'm Sean Kelly and this is my channel on everything real estate. It's a new day, but the same old shirt. This is chapter 1, which is all about basic real estate concepts. This chapter, along with chapter 2, really set the foundation of real estate in North Carolina. Here we will cover the types of property, the characteristics of property, the bundle of rights, investments, and a ton of vocabulary. As always, remember to hit that big red subscribe button down below so you can follow along with the rest of the chapters in the series. Clicking the thumbs up button would be much appreciated as well. While you're at it, I'll give you 5 seconds. All right, let's get into it. Just like in the introduction video, if you haven't signed up for pre-licensing, post-education, or continuing education classes yet, signing up through the link in the description below will give you 10% off. All right, now let's get started. Let's just start simple with land. Land is everything from the surface of the earth down to the very center of the earth, all the way up through the sky. This literally means that you own some millifraction of the center of the earth. You also own the rights above your property, so nobody can build a bridge over it. Your neighbor can't build a deck on their 3rd story that covers over your lawn. In real estate, there's really 2 types of property that we'll discuss. There's real property and your personal property. Real property is the land and the things that are permanently attached and runs with the land. Ask yourself, is it nailed, screwed, glued, or buried into the ground? These are most likely real property. Things that are appurtenant, which is a keyword we'll go over later, are forever. In other words, when I sell a property, what am I selling with it? Everything that is attached. This also includes intangible items such as rights, easements, covenants, restrictions like your HOA. Yes, when you buy a house with an HOA, you are now getting that HOA. And we'll go over these again in other chapters. Real property is also referred to as real estate, realty, and land. These are interchangeable terms that you'll need to know. And real property is transferred between a buyer and a seller with a deed. Now, personal property. The biggest characteristic of personal property is it movable? This includes things such as furniture, clothing, money, and so on. So if you see a car in the garage, then it most likely will not transfer that house, in most cases.
This golden surprise just might. A Lambo and a Rolls-Royce Dawn in the garage. Both are included in the $100 million asking price.
Personal property is transferred between a buyer and a seller with a bill of sale. So remember that. Real property is transferred with a deed. Personal property is transferred with a bill of sale. So most of what we'll talk about in this entire series is obviously real property, because we are learning about real estate, not necessarily your personal belongings. So real property includes real estate plus this acronym BIRTH. So BIRTH is your benefits, your interests, your rights, your tenements, and your hereditaments. You'll have to read that off. Tenements are immobile and are considered real property. Think of like a tree or a deck. Hereditaments are anything that are capable of being inherited, such as an easement. These 5 things create the bundle of rights, which we'll go into in chapter 2. So let's go over the characteristics of real property. There are the physical characteristics and the economical characteristics. Let's go over the physical characteristics first. So there's immobility, it can't move. There's indestructibility, it can't really be destroyed. And then there is uniqueness, which is probably the most important characteristic. And uniqueness means no 2 properties are alike. Imagine 2 properties side by side in an open pasture, the same exact size. One is going to have a slightly different view. One is going to be slightly further away from a smelly junkyard. One is going to have slightly different mineral characteristics in the land. They are not 100% alike. No 2 properties are. And this is why uniqueness is so important. Since no 2 properties are alike, a seller can be sued if they back out of a contract and can be sued for performing the rest of that contract. Think of it like this. If someone backs out of a car sales contract, it's not that big of a deal. There are thousands of more cars just like it. But with land, there is just one piece of it. What being sued for specific performance means is that if a contract has formed and a seller backs out, the buyer can sue for specific performance, forcing the seller to fully perform that contract. I have a better definition for this at the recap at the end of this video. Then there are the economical characteristics. There is scarcity, so the less available, the higher the value. And then there's location, and you hear it all the time. Location, location, location. This will be the most important characteristics for the economical side. Then there are improvements and permanence of investment. So let's go over the highest and best use. This is the best use that will provide the highest return on investment. Imagine an old ranch house surrounded by highways and mixed use development. The best use of that property would be something like a gas station or another commercial high density unit. And really, highest and best use is just a term you should know. As a homeowner, you are not required to conform to the highest and best use, but eventually you will be taxed into oblivion or inconvenienced in some type of way. Now, real estate investment. In the long run, the value of property always goes up, and we say that because it always has. And this is because of scarcity. There's a set amount of land, but population just keeps increasing. Therefore, more people are needing that set amount of land. As an investment though, real estate is not a liquid investment, meaning you can't just go and sell and grab your money out right away. Think about if you had a savings account with a 0.01% interest rate. You can go to the bank right now and pull that money out. So there are 3 types of financial gains for investors that will be covered on this test. There is appreciation, there is tax benefits, and there's cash flow. Cash flow is usually from rent, and the tax advantages are things like as write-offs and depreciation and things on paper that make it look like you lost money. There's a whole chapter about investments way later on in the series. There are 5 main uses of real estate. First one being residential, or a place to live. Then there is commercial, which is to make money. Industrial, which is to make money. Agricultural, which is to make money and feed people. And then there is special purpose, which are things like schools, fire departments, police departments, and things that are like government associated. So we mentioned supply earlier. There is always a constant battle between supply and demand. As supply increases, meaning we have a ton of new home constructions on the market, demand decreases. The demand decreases because now there are several new homes to fulfill that demand. For example, if we have 50 people looking for a new house in 2020 in one specific city, and 100 new construction homes are built, those 50 people are now covered. This will also mean that the other remaining 50 houses will become a little bit cheaper because the demand has decreased. It has already been fulfilled. Furthermore, if supply decreases or there are less homes on the market, demand increases. Those 50 people will now be out negotiating each other on the very limited supply of houses. Prices will go up. So the factors that affect supply are the cost, the labor, and government controls. I think of supply as to build, or building supplies. What does it take to build something? So you need the labor to build. What is the cost to build? And then what are the government controls that are restricting or allowing you to build something? Then there are the factors that affect demand, which are your wages, your employment, your population, and the economy. Demand can be thought of as the buying side. What are the factors that cause people to buy more or less? You need the wages to buy, you need employment to buy, you need an increased population of people to want to buy, and then the economic factors of it. Are people too scared to buy? So it's important to know the difference in the land use controls and how they apply. There's public, private, and government. Public is like city planning and zoning ordinances. Private is deed restrictions or covenants and restrictions like HOAs. And government land use controls are things like highways, parks, and other things that are designated for specific uses. And these are especially true in densely populated areas. If you have a ranch 100 miles away from the city, you're almost free to do whatever you'd like. But if you have a house within the city limits, you have restrictions on Airbnb and house setbacks and noise ordinances and all these other types of rules. The last little nugget of information in this chapter goes back to the North Carolina license. So a broker is a North Carolina licensee, but a realtor is an association member. So not all brokers are realtors, but all realtors are brokers, because you have to become a broker before you can become a realtor. Realtors just means that you join the association, and this is how you get access to the MLS. And these are 3 memberships in one. Let me read them off. You have the NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors. Then you have the NCAR, which is the North Carolina Association of Realtors. And then you have the City, County, Local Association of Realtors. Okay, so these all cost a ton of money, so don't be surprised when you go and try to get access to the MLS and they say, okay, great, yeah, your bill is $900, how would you like to pay? That's about a rough estimate of what mine was. So time for today's recap. I believe this was a little bit shorter of a chapter, so I didn't go through a halftime recap, but this recap will be mostly vocabulary based. So a deed transfers real property, while a bill of sale transfers personal property. Know that distinction. So real property are things that are tied to the property and can be both tangible and intangible, such as easements and restrictions. Personal property are things that are movable, like a TV, a car, and so on. Also, personal property is also known to or referred to as chattel. I think that's how you pronounce it. That's how you spell it. As supply increases, prices tend to decrease. As demand increases, prices tend to increase. Location is the most important economical characteristic. This is definitely a test question. Uniqueness is the most important characteristic of real property. Let me read you the definition of this just so I get it spot on. Because of the uniqueness of every single property, if a seller tries to back out of a contract, the seller can be sued for specific performance, meaning a potential buyer can sue a seller and have a court force the seller to perform the contract. Don't back out of your contracts. Then the highest and best use, which is the one single use that provides the greatest return and maximizes the value of a piece of property. And that's it for chapter 1. You're on your way now and there's no stopping us.
Happy, 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 happy.
As mentioned in the beginning of this, please consider subscribing below so you can follow along with the series. If you have any feedback, please drop it in the comments below. And if you want 10% off your classes, go to the link down in the description below as well. I'll see you on the next one.